I found this article very interesting. People need to familiarize themselves with the different rituals that are going on, not necessarily so they can follow them, but so that you can be aware of them. Royal ghost ship rises. Egyptian pharaoh's 4,600-year-old solar boat that was buried next to his tomb in Giza's largest pyramid, in the belief it would carry him to the afterlife, is transported to the Grand Museum. Egypt has transported the pharaoh Khufu's intact solar boat, dating back some 4,600 years, to the country's soon to be unveiled Grand Museum, the Antiquities Ministry said on Saturday. Solar boats were buried in pits next to royal burial chambers in the belief that they would transport the departed into the afterlife. Cairo's Grand Pyramid, also known as the Pyramid of Cheops, is the largest of the three Giza pyramids and houses Khufu's tomb, which was buried in 2566 BC. After crossing the streets of Giza on a smart vehicle, the first boat of King Khufu, discovered in 1954 at the southern corner of the Great Pyramid, has terminated its long journey to the Grand Egyptian Museum, GEM, a ministry statement said. The boat was commissioned by Khufu, a 4th dynasty monarch who ruled during the Old Kingdom. The ministry boasted that the 42-meter long and 20-ton solar boat is the biggest and oldest organic artifact made of wood in the history of humanity. The journey on a special remote-controlled vehicle imported from Belgium began late on Friday and took 10 hours, the official MENA news agency reported. Egypt has touted the anticipated opening of the gem at the Giza Plateau, home to the famed pyramids, as an important archaeological landmark housing its most precious antiquities. The vessel was transported intact on its 7.5-kilometer journey and is said to be one of the star exhibits when the new museum opens. It had been on display near the Great Pyramid. The vessel, discovered in 1954 at the southern corner of the Great Pyramid, has been exhibited for decades at a museum bearing the name at Giza Plateau. Egypt says the Grand Egyptian Museum, which has been under construction intermittently for 17 years, will contain more than 100,000 artifacts when it opens. Egypt has pinned its hopes on a series of recent archaeological discoveries to revive its vital but ailing tourism sector, which has suffered multiple shocks from the 2011 uprising to today's CV pandemic, or should I say plandemic. In April, authorities moved the mummified remains of 22 pharaohs from Cairo's iconic Egyptian Museum in a grandiose ceremony to the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization in the city. In a carefully choreographed televised event, President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi greeted the coffins that included the mummies of Ramses II and Queen Hatshepsut. Let's read and learn a little bit about Khufu. Khufu came to the throne probably during his 20s and at once began working on the pyramids. The entire project took about 23 years to complete, during which time took 2,003,000 building blocks, weighing an average of 2.5 tons each, were moved. Wow. It's now believed that the pyramids were built using conscripted labor rather than slaves. The idea that Khufu used slaves to build the pyramids comes from Greek historian Herodotus. He also described Khufu as a cruel and wicked leader who prostituted his daughter when he ran short on money. But the Westcar Papyrus describes Khufu as a traditional Oriental monarch, good natured, amiable in his inferiorities, and interested in the nature of human existence and magic. Khufu was remembered more during the later Roman period than he was in his own time. His following wasn't quite as it was with his father. The Grand Egyptian Museum, also known as the Giza Museum, is an archaeological museum under construction in Giza, Egypt. When inaugurated, the gem will be the largest archaeological museum in the world. It will house artifacts of ancient Egypt, including the complete Tutankhamun collection. Many pieces will be displayed for the first time. So this should be great. Interesting. The students were just 7 years old at the time, but they could see on the president's face that something had happened. He looked disconcerted, anxious, recalled Lazaro, another former student. He was looking at the camera, the walls. Daniels, the teacher, who also aware of a change in the room, he left the room. Mentally, he was gone. Let me repeat that last part. He left the room. Mentally, he was gone. As the kids began reading the short story, The Pet Goat, Andrew Card, the president's chief of staff, entered the room, walked over to the president, and whispered in his ear. Shown here is the cover of the children's reading book that contained a short story, cover over story, that President Bush held on September 11th, 2001. The students were just 7 years old at the time, but they could see on the president's face that something had happened. He looked disconcerted, anxious, recalled Lazaro Darb. I'm not sure how you say that. This name right here, recalled. Okay, let's just back up. Here's the book the president was reading on the day of the attack. The name of the book is The Pet Goat, which, to start off with, I will say, if you look, he has the book upside down in his hand. So if you look at the exercise for this book, it says the pet goat is designed to teach students about words ending in the letter E, using the direct instruction teaching method. The exercise tells a story about a girl's pet goat, which her parents want to get rid of because it eats everything. The parents relent after it foils a robbery by butting the intruder, who is now sore. Direct instruction is a term for the explicit teaching of a skill set using letters or demonstrations of the materials to students. A particular subset of direct instructions, denoted by capitalization as direct instruction, refer to a specific example of the approach developed by Siegfried Engelmann and Wesley C. Becker. DI teaches for explicit instruction, in contrast to exploratory methods such as inquiry-based learning. DI includes tutorials, participatory laboratory classes, discussion, reenaction, seminars, workshops, observation, learning, active learning, practica, or internships. Models include I do, instructor; we do, instructor and students; you do, students participate on their own with instructor monitoring. DI relies on a systematic and scripted curriculum delivered by highly trained instructors on the premise that all students can learn and all teachers can successfully teach if given effective training in specific techniques. Teachers may be evaluated shit. Hope it's not based on that stutter. Teachers may be evaluated based on measurable learning. Measurable student learning. Okay, I'm Moses right now. Okay, you guys, Moses had a stutter too. So be kind on my crappy speaking. In some special education programs, the irony of that, direct instruction is used in resource rooms when teachers assist with homework completion and academic remediation. I'm going to assume that by now most of you are familiar with Aleister Crowley. He has a lot of teachings. He was a known Satanist, and he was also a member of the Order of the Golden Dawn. He taught a lot about inversion and how it's used in the occult. The occult law of reversal. Edward Alexander Aleister Crowley was born 1875, died 1947. He is considered the 19th and 20th century chief archetype of divination, which includes communication with the dead. He was a top Satanist. Stories about him are legion. His sexual and psychological exploits and experiments through divination almost become legendary. He made his home near the shores of Loch Ness, Scotland. The home was actually a castle known as, I'm not sure how you say that, Boleskine House? However you say that word right there. Crowley was known as the Beast, 666. He was depraved and served as mentor to many, then and now. Tarot owns to him the deep involvement with... I messed up. Crowley was known as the Beast, 666. He was depraved and served as mentor to many then and now. Tarot owes to him the deep involvement many have with it now in the 20th century. He spent much of his life studying, defining, and enhancing the modern practice of ancient tarot. Crowley belonged to the ancient pagan society known as the Order of the Golden Dawn and bears the highest title of Magus. This title is earned through ascension techniques, which, when one arrives at them through various pagan rituals, he has achieved the highest order the occult brotherhood has to offer. Crowley died in 1947 and had his followers burn his body to ashes as they read a poem he composed, Hymn to Pan. One of Crowley's chief insistences was that his followers learn to put into practice the occult law of reversal. In the many various and sundry classes he instructed in his home in the occult, he variably instructed his multitude of excited students in this major law of Satan. Those who want fame, power, spell-casting abilities, demons at their beck and call, and to recognize the Godhead within, as well as to know the past, present, and future, he extolled to his apt students must consistently, with intensity, practice talking, reverse speech, walking, thinking, playing, phonograph records backwards. This is a form of divination, and we are warned against this in the Holy Bible.
Fool me one, fool me one.